You're listening to the Sisters in Loss podcast, a faith-based grief and loss podcast for Black women, where you will hear stories of miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, and infertility to learn there is a testimony in tragedy. You will learn how to heal, gain clarity, find hope and peace, and turn your pain into your purpose after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee.
Thank you, Tabitha, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is an important venture you're undertaking. So thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to begin with you sharing a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I am a teacher at a school in the inner city, and it's like a suburb really of Chicago. But it's still kind of cityfied. It's not like what you think of when you might think of a suburb. And I have a huge family, and I'm extremely family oriented. I'm married. I've been married for 6 years now. And me and my husband have been together for 13 years altogether. And I do have a daughter. She is made 7 months, March 26th. So, we're venturing into, new parent kind of world. And it's a big part of, what is me now. Before, of course, we traveled a lot and we were foodies. We like to go to like these, restaurants, and we just had life experiences, and we still are, but things look different now, obviously.
Yeah. So take us back on your journey to motherhood and share with us your lost story.
Well, and it's so funny too, because I heard another young lady on your podcast, the one that I listened to most recently, that really resonated with me, and I decided to, I wanted to share my story as well. But she said she didn't think she can get pregnant. And I've heard women say that for some reason, that haven't had difficulty. We might have had difficulties, but that wasn't our difficulty. So I kind of felt that way too. Like, it hadn't happened for me. And it's like all of my friends, whether they had a child or not, had fallen pregnant. I'm like, well, maybe I can't, even though I was very careful for the most part. Still, those slip ups happen. It's like, why haven't I ever gotten pregnant? I just imagine myself in my future kind of having a problem when I wanted to. So, when I met my husband, when we were dating and going out, and even after we gotten serious, we've always used protection. We've never not used it, no slip ups or anything like that. I mean, he was very, very careful. He was very anti-baby daddy. I was very anti-baby mama. Like, that just wasn't our story. We just didn't want that for ourselves. So we were very careful. And it wasn't until we decided to get married that we discussed, what we do after. And then I got on the pill, and, I got on it about a month before the wedding so I can get into my system, maybe a month, 2 months, something like that. And got married. We did start, we didn't use condoms anymore, but I still was on the pill. And we went about that way, I'm going to say, for about a year and a half, maybe less. I'm not sure. Until we had the conversation that we wanted to have a child. And I was maybe 34. Yeah, 34 when we got married. So obviously, women's eggs, they don't age as fast as we think. People here like 35, and that's just like the cutoff, and all of a sudden you just can't get pregnant. That's not true. But there is an expiration date, and we can't deny that. Whatever the case is, we decided around, I want to say May of 2014 or June of 2014 try to get pregnant. And it took like a month for me, and I actually got pregnant. It was just like, wow, I couldn't believe it had happened so quickly. And, like I said, I'm a researcher by nature. So of course I knew about miscarriage, but I feel like I knew about it in another existence. Like, it could happen, but that wouldn't happen to me. It's like God wouldn't let that happen to me, which is unfair because, that even thinking that way. But in my head, it's like, that won't happen to us. And, I knew about all the risks, and it was like at my age, it was like 1 in 4 chances. No, percentage wise, it was like less than 20%, I think. And I felt like, okay, I could beat those odds. And I told people, I didn't tell a lot of people because I guess part of me must have been like, I didn't want to tell people and then have to untell people. So I did tell a few close friends, of course, my parents. It was like a big introduction way we did it. Me and my husband had them to dinner, and then we presented them with the snow and the pacifier, and they were just so happy, and we all were. And I will say that, a little while after that, I just started having a feeling like something was wrong. I kept saying that. And I even asked my family doctor, who isn't, he's a family practitioner, so he's not an OBGYN. And I was just like, I told him, I said, could I have a miscarriage and not know it? And he's like, no, you would know it. And I'm like, because I had read something called miscarriage, where you miscarry, but your body still carries on as if you're pregnant. I was having symptoms. I was sick. I was throwing up. I was just like, I really I really feel like, something's wrong, like something seems empty almost. And he's just like, no, no. But it wouldn't go away. The nagging feeling wouldn't go away. And finally one day I just drove myself to the hospital because I'm like, I just know something's wrong. And then when we got there, they checked my HCG levels. And they told me they were like 7,000. And my husband didn't know what that meant. I told him, I said, it means that they're not doubling properly. I was like, if I'm 8 weeks, they should be much higher than that. And, then they verified, they told us for sure. It was like, yes, you are miscarrying. And it was very, it was treated kind of like going home. It was, very casual to them, which I know they see and hear that all the time. But, those kind of words bring a world crashing down to someone, which it did for me and my husband. And, they gave me my misoprostol, which kind of started the miscarriage process. And you contract, like you're in labor because you really are. That's what happens. And, I did that and it was just completely horrible. And, and then I had what they call a complete miscarriage and all the products of conception, which is what they call it. These are the kind of words we have to deal with. We're talking about a child that was growing that we wanted. They were products of misconception. I had a complete miscarriage. There was nothing left and I didn't have to have surgery or DNC. And me and my husband, we were devastated and we came back home and only a few people knew. So we did get support from those people. And honestly, I felt like that was the worst I could ever feel. That's how I felt like it couldn't possibly get any worse than this. But, we got up the bravery to try again. I want to say I miscarried in August of 2014 and we decided to try again in November. And then I found out I was pregnant right after the new year. I remember because I did drink for the new year and my friend made a joke that, my baby was going to have 2 eyes because we drank so much. But it was a few days later I started getting, having my symptoms that I know that I have that I now realize I have when I'm pregnant, which is crazy dreams. That's my first symptom. And, I started having those dreams and found out, okay, I'm pregnant again. And of course, now I'm cautious. Now, after you have a miscarriage, you enter a different world. Now it's a world where 2 pink lines don't mean a baby. It's like that. It's like you had a kind of a naivete about you and it just goes away. Like the world isn't black and white anymore. You don't necessarily dream of nurseries. It's like, it definitely steals some of the joy away. And it shouldn't, but it does. It's very scary. And, you find yourself looking at women that are pregnant and wondering, is this their first baby? Because it's a different kind of existence. But, things were fine. And, we heard a heartbeat, which is, of course, once you hear a heartbeat, the chances of miscarriage go to it's like, there's a 10% chance. And there's every day, there's you can see a percentage of chance for each day. Like if you're 8 weeks and 3 days, 8 weeks and 4 days. And, I'm kind of, although I'm a creative person, I am a numbers person. And I did read those numbers to help me, even though at the end of the day, once you become that statistic, those numbers mean nothing. But it did give me some comfort. And I got to the point where you can feel safe. I'm putting that in quotes, where you can feel safe. 13 weeks and, I was out the first trimester and, I was entering in the second and everything was fine. I could went along and I started to feel her move and was starting to feel like, okay, this is my baby. This is my take home baby. And we started talking about names and, my husband we read to her. He listened to music with her. We started buying things for her. My parents, first grandbaby, they started getting very excited. And then I was about at 20, I'm going to say 24 weeks and maybe 2 days or something like that. And me and my husband were about to go to IKEA to go shop for, I wanted a bookshelf for I was having, I had a girl, having a girl, and I was like, I wanted to get a bookshelf for her. And we was going to go to IKEA and I started feeling, pains. And I'm like, what's going on? And I laid down. It just felt like a stomach ache. And so I laid down and then I had another one. And then the second one, I said, are these contractions? Because I was like, I think these are contractions. And then I timed the next one and it was 7 minutes. I said, I'm having contractions. So I get up and I told my husband, we have to go to the hospital because I'm having contractions. And so then when I go to the, the bathroom to kind of clean up, I noticed that it was blood in my urine. I was like, oh my, I was like, oh God, this is definitely something's wrong. Now I had a Doppler, at home Doppler. And what that is you can listen to your baby's heartbeat. And I did, I listened and she was pumping away like usual, moving away like usual. I'm like, okay, so she's in there. She's fine. So everything's okay. It's I don't know why I'm having these contractions. So I get there and I'm bleeding a lot, a crazy amount. And they look when they look on the screen, they see that my membranes are bulging. So my water bag is like, I'm dilated. And they was like, oh my God, they like immediately, they're like, trying to do what they can to make sure that the water bag goes back in, essentially. So they admitted me and they're like, you can't leave until you have this baby. And it's like, no matter how long it takes, they put me on like strict bed rest, not even like bed rest where you can use the bathroom, like bed rest where you could do nothing. Like they had to wash me up. They had to do everything. I couldn't get up to do anything for myself. And they told me I was dilated 9. And 9, you're dilated 9, but then you're ready to push. And they were like somehow dilated to 9. And it's like, how did that happen? I did feel pain, but it wasn't like the pains that you should feel when you're contracting. Like I said, they really hurt, but not as badly as they should have hurt. And I found out about that condition, what that was a little later on, but they they had me in there and, they kind of put me on the bed where gravity, like they had me tilted back. So gravity kind of hold my daughter in. And we did that for 3 days. Of course, at the time it's like me and my husband, our minister came and, my family to pray for us and just to pray for our baby. Like my dad, he's a deacon. And so he came in and he said a lot of prayers for us. And he didn't know how to deal with this because he hadn't experienced anything like this. And he didn't know anyone that did. So he didn't know what to make of it and anything. Either way, the night of May 20th of 2015 at this point, and they had me on so many different medicines to try to keep me to one, help my baby grow, like help her steroids to help her lungs grow and get strong. And they had me on magnesium, which makes you very hot, but just a lot of different things. And I got sick and I threw up, because it was just like I was having all these things pumped into my body and I threw up. I heard a pop and that was my water bag. And it was like my water just broke. And they came in there, they was like that it was, it was go time. Now they did tell me that, a baby could survive at, this is at point 24 weeks, 5 days. That hospital 24 weeks is what's called viability. So that is a baby that has a chance. And there are babies that are 24 weeks. They call them micro preemies. They can survive. And some of them, most of them have some kind of problems, but many of them don't, but they definitely said that it wasn't me. When we went into that, we knew that the risk that was happening, we knew that it was a good chance our baby wasn't going to make it. But the fact is she was alive and I was like, well, she's fighting. So we're fighting for her. And they told me that a C-section is the best way that we're going to be able to, for her survival rate. And it's like, absolutely, let's do it. They were like, it was dangerous for me, and my husband's just like, well, it's so dangerous. But it's like, that was kind of, when you're having problems and you don't know if your baby's going to make it, any way you could be a mom, you kind of grab onto it. And I'm like, well, this is, my baby has a 1% chance of survival because I have a C-section, then I'm going to do it. And, that was a decision. I had signed the papers and they made sure that, I was okay with it. And I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. So just as they was about to wheel me to the room for surgery, like she almost slipped out. Basically, the doctor told me like, we're not even going to make it. Like she was holding her in by her hand. So she was like, it's not going to happen. So we had left the room. They wheeled back in and a few pushes later, it's like I heard she's out, and it's like I can still feel and still remember the moment kind of when 1 became 2. Like I just remember them pulling her from me, and they immediately start working on her. And me and my husband were just on the bed watching, and there was just so many doctors in there. They were working on her for so long, and they're just like they couldn't get she was like a pound. And they just couldn't get the tube down her throat to help her breathe. It's like no matter what. And finally, they just like that they didn't think it was going to happen. And, they could keep trying, but they don't think that they could do it. And I was like, of course, keep trying. But it's like after a while, it's like I wanted to spend some time with our baby. So I was just like, okay, give it to me because you just know. And it's like, and then of course, it's like, I don't want my baby suffering. It's like, once again, this is my opportunity to be a mom. So they brought her over to me after they cleaned her up and rocked her. And she was still alive. She was a person, a tiny but perfect person, all her fingers, all her toes. She even had like the kind of hair already and, eyebrows. And I saw she just looked exactly like, my husband, exactly like her father. And she lived for like 57 minutes and, we were able to, spend time with her. She couldn't do that much because she was so tiny, helpless, but moving and breathing and heartbeat, all of that was happening until she wasn't anymore. And they came and we named her Parker and they baptized her and we decided to have her cremated so I can keep her here with me in an urn. And that was it. And it was like, I don't remember a whole lot. I know they gave me Ambien because I was just like, I don't even remember like in and out, but to say torn open is like an understatement. At that point, you're just kind of surviving and living. It's like, when you leave the hospital without your baby, it's nothing like it. It's like, and you see happy parents around you and you just feel it's like a combination of numbness and horror and heartbreak. And that's just how it is. It's like, I was still in the wheelchair and they wheeled me out, and it's like where you hear happiness on because they moved me out of the maternity ward, but it's still, it's just really, like I said, beyond devastating.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Living Waters Doula Services. Are you currently trying to conceive or expecting? Join me for 6 weeks as we guide you through the anxiety, fear, and stress of a pregnancy after loss. This course begins on April the 23rd, and we will meet weekly to go through topics like stress, self-care, identifying, connecting with this pregnancy, and maximizing memories as you try to conceive. This course is for you if you are trying to conceive and are currently pregnant and need some support and guidance as you go through this new journey with the pregnancy after loss or infertility. Join us for 6 weeks beginning April 23rd. Go to ericaandmcafee.com/courses for more information.
After that, it was just like, me and my husband like, well, maybe God wants something else for us. We don't know what, but maybe he wants something else for us. And I'm just kind of figuring out what is it that he's trying to tell us with this. And it's like, we're like, maybe we won't try to have any more children. And that's kind of the way we went along for a while, for a couple of years, I want to say, until I decided, I was like, I wanted to freeze my embryos because I was like, for our embryos, because it's like, I wasn't ready for that journey again, but I didn't, I was like, I didn't want to close the door either. So I decided if we froze our embryos, at least this way they don't age, your uterus doesn't age. And if you could, kind of freeze embryo, you kind of take advantage of time in that sense. So, we went and we got information on the procedure, all that good stuff. They would do what's called PGS testing, which is tested to make sure that it's chromosomally normal, which is especially as you age, chances of a miscarriage heighten because your eggs they fertilize, but they're not necessarily normal eggs, and they're not eggs that will, and it's not as in Down syndrome chromosome, but I mean as in survival at all. So we're going to get that tested. And, we were waiting for it to happen, which was in, I want to say July. They called me. It was just like, because you have to come in after your period for them to retrieve your eggs and then for them to fertilize on my husband's sperm. And they were just like, wait, when are you coming in? I was like, well, I haven't started my period. But I said, as soon as I do, I'll come. And then I started having the dreams. I'm like, oh my God, am I pregnant? And my husband's like, because I had been using the natural family planning method as in avoiding my ovulation. That's really, and it works for me. Like that's how I got pregnant. So I just used it in reverse to not get pregnant. And obviously it worked for a long time, but it didn't work that time. And I found out I was pregnant. And of course I was happy, but it's like, you're not too. It's like there's a cloud over you, like a fear, and it prevents you from being really happy. It's like, because, not only did I have a miscarriage, I had a late loss, and it's like, it made me feel like it was never a safe time. And I would never, it gives you a feeling like that maybe you never will take home a baby. And it's like, I know women that do this repeatedly. It's like, I don't know, but my heart just wasn't able to take it. And we're all different and our journeys are different. It's just like, I didn't want to, but here was, I was pregnant, and it was like, that was that. And they, of course, was very careful with me. Like I went to the doctor twice a week. Like I was seen all the time. I found out I had something called incompetent cervix, which means you dilate really without real contractions, and it happens quickly. And so they gave me a cerclage, which stitched up my cervix. And, I got that at like 18 weeks. And yeah, I just, they gave me progesterone shots. And like I said, they monitored me, they monitored the baby. And like I was just constantly at the doctor. If I hiccup too much, they had me come in and test me. It was like no chances taken at all. And so I was, like I said, I was constantly, I was in the hospital, I don't know how many times, but at the end of the day, like at 37 weeks is when I went in. I had to be induced because my blood pressure went up and my daughter's fluid was low. So they're like, we wanted to induce you. Like I said, they didn't want to take any chances. I'm sure like if I hadn't had a loss previously, they wouldn't have been so, they wouldn't have been so cautious, and they would have just felt like it's fine, because my blood pressure was high for like one time and then it went back to normal. They wouldn't take any chances there. My doctor even said, and I had this wonderful Black lady for a doctor who was just like really so wonderful. And I mean, I'm not saying she was special with me or different with me because I was also African American, but it just felt like she was extra watching out for me. And so I trusted her, and she induced me at 37 weeks, and we had a beautiful 5-pound, 9-ounce baby girl that we named Cameron. And that's where we are now.
Thank you so much for sharing that journey and just taking us through all those details. So let's talk about in between your loss, Parker, to Cameron. How did you and your husband grieve? How did you all grieve together? How did it impact your faith in God? And really just take us on that journey.
Okay. Well, I will say, first of all, that I know that kind of loss splits a lot of marriages up. Like a lot of people aren't able to get to the other side of that journey. And I know it's because women and men grieve differently. And a lot of times you see the man, they seem so strong and you're like, well, did you care at all? And resentment builds up because it's like, I'm here torn open. My insides are exposed and you're just, going on like normal. And, a lot of times we, women fault men for not grieving the same way, or as we feel like not grieving at all. And, I will say that my husband, he did the same thing. He supported me so much. Like he was my G, like he was on my side. Like, so he didn't really, it's almost like I didn't realize he had a loss too until, it was like maybe a week after. And like, where he had his breakdown. And I'm just like, there are two people grieving here. It's like, and he lost a daughter too. So, and just because he wasn't really showing it, I didn't think about protecting him or comforting him because I was so, into my own kind of devastation. And it's not fair. It's not fair to men in general because it's like we raise men, and when they cry, we call them sissies. And, when they're babies, and it's like we say, don't cry, don't be a punk. And we encourage them to kind of be these emotionally bankrupt creatures. And then when they get into a marriage, we expect them all of a sudden to, be able to open up and share their feelings. It's like when they've been conditioned to not. And I understood that. So the reason we made it through is because I accepted that our journeys were going to be, they may look different. And, so I didn't fault him for how he grieved, he didn't fault me. And we just support each other when we need it. Now, as far as, I'm going to say, private grieving, I went to a lot of online blogs. That was like something I did. And I found kind of a community of broken women who were trying to piece themselves back together. And I just would read those for hours, the stories. And it just amazed me because first of all, miscarriage and infant loss is so common, yet it's not talked about. It's like that to me, it still boggles my mind. It's like, how is this possible? And it's like, once I had a miscarriage, people would tell me like, oh, I had one too. And it's like, I felt like, why didn't I know? But it's like, why would I know? But at the same time, it just feels like this dirty secret that women carry. It's like, and it's already devastation that's happening and complete turmoil. And then we're kind of forced to not even share. So online offered me kind of the community what I was meeting. Like people were sharing and talking and sharing pictures of their child and without feeling ashamed. And it was just kind of like, we're proud of our children too. And it's like, and just because, they didn't, live as long or, whatever the case, we're proud of them and we want to show them and we want to say their name and we want you to say their name. So that really definitely helped me. I also felt like, I was never angry with God. I never felt like he left my side, but I did want to know what was he trying to show me. That was probably, and one of my friends who's, I have a good female friend who's a deacon, like that you're not supposed to question God. And I was just like, I don't feel like questioning questioning, like, it wasn't questions like, why did you do this? It was a question like, why did you do this? Like, I mean, show me so I can kind of, this is a way of getting my attention to direct to something else, whatever it is, please show me. And it's like, I was looking for that constantly, like, it's like, how is this supposed to mold my life? And, again, I kept looking for the message. But like I said, I will say that, I never lost my faith. I knew he never left my side, but, it was hurting me that I felt like I didn't understand, why it was done to my husband and myself. And like I said, as far as family goes, it wasn't that they weren't supportive. It's like, no one knows how to support you through loss if they haven't had a loss, because I had a good friend, and she had a stillbirth at about, I want to say 6.5 months. And of course I looked to her because she's the only person close to me that had something similar happen. And she just told me, you have to forgive the fools. And I never forget it. She was right, because people would either not even talk about it, like not even mention anything, like only my cousin even asked what I named her. I mean, it's like, and I guess I could say that was me too, because I could have shared more. But, when I was just so lost and broken, I didn't know what end was up. And I didn't. It's like, and my cousin asked me, and of course I was like, oh yeah, so we named her Parker. I was happy to share it, but it's like, I didn't realize that I needed that. I needed people to ask me that, because it's like, I didn't know how to offer it, because it felt kind of private, but at the same time, I wanted people to know about it. Like I said, it's such a mixed bag of emotions. You don't even understand whether you're coming or going. But I do know, like I said, it was just like people, and they would say things like, well, you can have another. And of course, it's like, they don't know how destroying that is. It's like, your child isn't a sandwich. You can't just go get another. And I know they were trying to be helpful, but all I could think of is like, someone that has, 3 children. It's like, well, which one of them can you live without? Like, none of them. You want all of them. So I can't just go get another. That was the baby I wanted. That was my baby. And if you can't live without one of your children, it's unreasonable to say that I could just go get another one. But like I said, I know that people didn't say it to be hurtful. It doesn't mean it didn't hurt though. But when my friends say you have to forgive the fools, I would just kind of keep saying that, like, they don't understand, they don't know. And people after it, when I lost Parker, they're just like, well, what were you doing? It's like feeling like I'm being blamed somehow. It's like, you think I would do anything to hurt my baby? Like, I mean, I took all the vitamins. I took yoga. I mean, I ate healthily. I threw away all the junk in my house. I mean, it's just like, to be honest, crackheads have babies. People in war-torn countries have babies safely. It's like, so why would me, hanging up, somebody suggested because I was hanging up balloons. It's like, it's like the lack of knowledge of the medical side of this is astounding. But it feels, and I know that's why it's silenced, because it's like, it's something shameful in it, because people feel like, well, what were you doing? It's very victim blaming, and that's not the way to support us. And I know the reason is because it's beyond devastating. It's like, people want answers for something that's so devastating. And I get that. Like, I was telling my husband that if somebody loses their parents, you call them an orphan. Someone loses their wife, you call them a widow. Or someone loses their husband, they're a widow. And it's like, there's no word in the English language for someone that loses a child. So when you have that, it's like, you want to understand it. And sometimes it feels like blaming the victim. And so, that's kind of why, I speak out about it, is because I want people to, I want to silence the shame. Number one. And two, I want people to know how to support us best, because I can feel hurt and upset about the way I was supported all I want, or I could do something so that the next woman feels supported. Or the next time it happens to someone in their life, they know what to say, because the regular words of silence just don't apply here, So, I just try to think about those things. And that's just kind of the support that I received. Like I said, I know people meant well, but it was really difficult to hear a lot of those things. It really felt like constant gut punches. But, that's like, again, I felt like it was my mission to let people know about what to say, or best way to support women and men that have gone through loss.
So what tools or resources did you use to help you through your journey?
Well, the online blogs was a big one. They had support groups. I didn't really join any of those. I didn't look into them, but for some reason I didn't go to any of those. And a constant prayer is, was always a bit. I mean, it's like, even before, and I should say that I feel like that's definitely one thing that did come out, of my loss of my daughter, is that I felt like maybe God didn't want us to be closer, and we were. And I can't say that, I always felt like I counted my blessings, but now, I always do. I never forget to. I mean, I feel like it's even more so now. And I realize how, even before I had my daughter, how lucky I am and how blessed I am. So, I do feel like that it did make me feel close to God. So I can't say that came out of it, just because I felt like I needed his answers more than ever. And since I am kind of a researcher and an educator by nature, book, was kind of, I read so many books, but the one that kind of really resonated with me is called Empty Arms. And it's by Pam Redevelt. And it's just kind of capturing what it's like to be a mother what a mother experiences when she loses a baby. And it's inspirational. And it's beautiful in the sense that the deep suffering you could just really relate to. And I think when it comes to this, like people just want to feel like we're not alone. We don't want to feel isolated. And her book just felt like an arm in the dark that pulled me up. So that really, like I said, could help me so much, in addition to some of the other reads I read. It was actually, and it's true, it's a story, a movie. I don't even know if it's just a Netflix movie, but it's called Down to Zero. And it chronicles a woman that had like a 39-week stillbirth. And it's just, I could relate to it. Like, people said the things to her that they said to me. And it was just kind of the way that I was feeling. And it makes you feel just slightly more grounded, because it's like, you feel like this isn't the only one that's happened to. So I could say that helped me, those kind of things helped me greatly.
So what encouraging word can you leave with a mom out there who has experienced a loss and is looking to try again?
That's a great question. I feel like that. I know that it's definitely something hard and difficult to do, but I can't say that, the more powerful the storm, the greater the rainbow. I really feel like that's true. So I feel like if it's something you want, wow, I feel like there are so many resources and ways you can go get it. I do know there are some women that suffering from loss, they don't seek outside resources, it's becoming different, especially women of color, where, we can find out that maybe you had PCOS, or maybe you had polyps or fibroids. And so you could just, instead of not doing anything and kind of sitting in, understandable darkness, you can go out and advocate for yourself. And sometimes it's easy fixes. So, I feel like that even though it's definitely difficult, getting to the other side is miraculous. It really is. Like, it's really, it's such a wonderful and amazing feeling. And even though you are broken, it's like you can, I feel like, kind of be proud of the way you put yourself back together again. It's not going to be the same by any means, because it's like, even now, it's like, I feel like I should have 2 daughters. So it doesn't, that feeling never goes away. But, to be able to, actually be, not just a mother, but a parent, because I feel like that's a verb. Like, I actually parent my child. So, again, I feel like keep faith in God, because at the end of the day, he has the last word. And if that's what you want a child, I feel like that, through believing in faith, he can get it for you. And of course, like I said, self-advocating, that's a big part of it. You do have to get out there yourself and find out maybe other avenues, reach out to other people that are going through the same thing, and not be quiet about it. Like, I know there's so many women, again, especially women of color, are content to play the cool aunt for the rest of their life, like even wanting a child, but not having, not wanting to find out what's going on, or not want to try again. It's like, but that's not the case. Like, I feel like there's so many resources out here that are helping women have their baby if that's what they truly want.
So where can we get in contact with you after this episode? Where can we find you on social?
I started a greeting card company for women that have experienced loss, for people to get for women that experience a loss. And essentially, it's called Delayed Brown Stork. And that's my name on Instagram, Delayed Brown Stork. And the name of my Etsy store is Delayed Brown Stork. And I sell greeting cards that cater to women, that have had a loss. That way, people that don't have the right words want to get the right words of comfort, then I have them for you. Because no one knows better than someone's been through it. So, see me on social media or visit my store. And you can also you can buy some just for yourself, just to have kind of the words, that you want to hear, that aren't words just to make you feel better, but words that really, really resonate with, women. And even I have a couple for men, catered to men specifically, that, when you kind of just need comfort and answers. So I do feel like that was kind of another thing that came out of it. So, it's of course if purpose to my passion. It's not a profit project, but it's definitely a passion project, because I can help anybody feel less isolated, less alone. And, then that's what I'm here to do. And it definitely brought, some kind of purpose to what happened to me and my husband.
Awesome. Yeah, so we will definitely link all of that and a link to your store below so people can support you. Thank you so much, Tabitha, for sharing your story and your light with us. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Erica. Definitely, I appreciate so much what you're doing for this community. We definitely need each other's stories to give us comfort in the dark. So thank you so much. I admire what you do so much.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I pray that this show was inspirational and a blessing to you. For show notes, visit ericamcafee.com/podcast. Please join us in our offline discussions in our private Facebook group by going to sistersinloss.com. If you're listening in Apple Podcasts, please rate and subscribe to us and leave us a 5-star review. I pray that you all have a blessed week. Keep the faith, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday.